Imagine a time when water was not seen as life but as danger. A time when cold water was believed to weaken the body, shock the heart, and invite death. In medieval Europe, people avoided bathing. Warm water was rare. Cold water was feared. Doctors warned against it. Religious leaders supported that fear, and ordinary people believed a single cold bath could end a life. This is the story of why cold water once terrified the medieval world. In the medieval world, the human body was not seen as a machine. It was seen as a fragile balance, easily disturbed by nature. Doctors of that time believed the body was ruled by 4 internal fluids known as humors. These humors were blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Each one had its own nature. Some were warm, some were cold, some were dry, some were wet. Health meant harmony between these fluids. Illness meant that one humor had become too strong or too weak. Cold water was believed to attack this balance directly. Medieval doctors thought sudden cold shocked the body from the outside and disrupted the inside. They believed cold could force the humors to move too quickly or freeze in place. The heart was seen as especially vulnerable. Cold water, they believed, could slow the heart or weaken it without warning. This fear was not abstract, it came from observation. People noticed that after cold exposure, some individuals became weak, dizzy, or ill. Without knowledge of germs or circulation, cold water became the clear suspect. Medical books written in Latin warned against cold baths. They described cold as something that closed the body, trapping harmful substances inside. Once trapped, sickness would grow. The skin was not viewed as protection. It was seen as a doorway. Cold water was thought to force that doorway shut at the wrong time. This idea made cold water feel unpredictable and dangerous. Medieval medicine relied heavily on ancient Greek sources, especially Galen. His writings emphasized balance and moderation. Cold water represented the opposite of moderation. It was sudden, it was extreme, it was uncontrollable. For a society already struggling with disease, famine, and harsh weather, cold water felt like another threat from nature. Doctors did not test theories. They trusted tradition and experience. And experience told them one thing: cold water was not safe. Medieval doctors feared sudden change more than anything else. Sudden cold, sudden heat, sudden hunger, all were considered dangerous. Cold water represented sudden cold in its most extreme form. Medical advice of the time warned people to avoid cold exposure, especially when the body was warm. It was believed that moving from warmth to cold shocked the internal organs. Doctors taught that cold water could push harmful fluids deeper into the body. Once inside, these fluids were thought to rot and spread illness. This belief shaped daily behavior. People avoided rivers, they avoided cold rain, they avoided bathing, especially during winter. Religious leaders supported these medical views. They believed the body and spirit were closely connected. Physical shock was seen as harmful to spiritual balance. Cold water was not just physical discomfort, it was moral danger. In monasteries, rules often limited bathing. Too much concern for the body was seen as vanity. Too much discomfort was seen as harmful. Cold water sat in the middle of both fears. Doctors and monks agreed on one thing: cold water was risky. Medical texts described cases where people fell ill after cold exposure. These stories were repeated and copied across Europe. Over time, fear became tradition. Tradition became law. Parents warned children. Communities warned travelers. Cold water earned a reputation it could not escape. Doctors did not question these ideas because survival depended on caution. When death was common, avoiding risk felt wise. Cold water was a risk no one needed to take. Bathing in the medieval world was not a daily habit. It was an event, and often it was avoided. People believed bathing opened the pores of the skin. Open pores were dangerous. Once open, cold air and illness could enter the body. This idea terrified people living in cold climates. Bathhouses did exist, but they were used carefully. Warm water was preferred. Cold water was avoided. Even warm baths became suspicious during outbreaks of disease. People feared that bathing weakened the body. Cleanliness was redefined. Instead of washing skin, people changed clothes. They believed fresh fabric absorbed sweat and impurity. Herbs and perfumes were used to mask smell. Smell was often mistaken for disease. Cold water had no place in this system. For the poor, bathing was even rarer. Water had to be carried. Fuel had to be burned to heat it. Cold water simply was not worth the risk. Over time, generations grew up believing that avoiding baths was normal. Fear became habit. Bathing was not about health, it was about survival. Winter was the deadliest season in medieval Europe. Cold, hunger, and disease combined into a single threat. Homes were cold, stone walls trapped moisture, firewood was limited. Cold water exposure during winter was especially feared. People noticed that illness often followed cold accidents. Someone slipped into icy water. Days later, fever appeared. Sometimes death followed. Without understanding infection, cold water took the blame. Stories spread quickly. Fear spread faster. Cold water became linked to pneumonia, weakness, and sudden collapse. Villages passed warnings through generations. Do not bathe in winter. Do not touch cold water when warm. Cold water became a symbol of winter itself. Harsh, unforgiving, deadly. Fear was not irrational. It was shaped by loss. Centuries passed and understanding slowly changed. Science replaced humors. Observation replaced belief. Cold water lost its medieval meaning. But medieval people were not ignorant. They lived without protection, without medicine, without heat. Their fear made sense in their world. Cold water was dangerous to them because everything was dangerous. Today, cold water carries a different meaning. Not because the water changed, but because knowledge did. The story of cold water is not about water, it's about how humans understand risk. Fear shaped the past, knowledge shapes the present, and history reminds us that belief follows survival. Cold water was once a symbol of danger. Today, it represents control and endurance. The human body did not change. Human understanding did. Medieval people feared water. Modern people challenge it, and that difference tells us how far human thinking has traveled.